can estimate the influence of a little child? What a terrible loss it would be to the world if there were no children. How much the children have to do in upholding and restraining, in leading and teaching, we can hardly know. Many a man is restrained from evil courses by the influence of his children, and how many a man is cheered under hard toil and strengthened in fierce conflict by the love of his children. Nor are instances wanting of happy reformations wrought in character, and joyful transformations effected in homes by the winning words, the gentle ways, the mighty prayers, strong in their simplicity, of little children. Lily was the firstborn child of Luke Lycett, a carpenter and joiner who was in steady work and earning good wages. Her mother, whose maiden name was Lucy Clark, had lived for several years as servant at the vicarage, and was much esteemed by all who knew her. And when Luke and Lucy were married, everyone thought it was a happy choice, and wished the young couple all prosperity. The cottage of the Lycetts was the neatest and prettiest in Merton. Lucy was thoroughly industrious and domesticated, and took great pains to make home comfortable and attractive to her husband. Luke too was proud of his home, and of his thrifty and clever wife. Many of his evening hours, both before and after marriage, were spent in making articles of furniture for their own use. All the articles in their own bedroom, except the chairs, had been made by the skilful and diligent hands of Luke, while the pretty chintz hangings and netted curtains bore testimony to Lucy's taste and industry. The little garden in front of the cottage was a pretty picture, and the sparkling windows and clean curtains gave the place an aspect of comfort and even refinement. And why should there not be comfort and refinement in the cottage home? I like to see the marks of taste and love for home, the flowers in the window, the pictures on the walls, the books on the shelf, yes, and the musical instrument that helps to create home harmony. Happy will it be for England when her sons, the working men, take pride in and love their own homes. Happy will be the day when the attractions of home shall become superior to the charms of the tavern, and when fathers and husbands shall spend time and money upon their own homes and not upon the public house. About 18 months after they were married, God gave Luke and Lucy a new and precious treasure. A little daughter was born, and great joy filled the home. What a wonderful event was that! Never was there such a baby, so the friendly gossips said. Such eyes, such rounded limbs, such dimpled cheeks. Luke held the little white bundle awkwardly in his arms as if afraid of dropping it, but his face glowed with pride and lively satisfaction. Lucy, like every mother, thought her baby a prodigy without parallel. In due time, baby was baptised Lucy, but somehow or other, because of her extreme fairness, or perhaps to distinguish the child from the mother, she was from the beginning called Lily. Luke set to work and made a neat and substantial cradle, in which Lily slept many an hour. So all went on pleasantly at the cottage, and few would have supposed that clouds would ever gather over so bright a scene. It was when Lily was about 9 months old that the fields in front of the Lycetts' cottage were invaded by surveyors and builders, and the fair turf cut up, and the land laid out for building. Beautiful old trees were cut down, hedges uprooted, and straight hard roads driven right through where daisies and buttercups used to grow. An enterprising builder had bought the estate and proposed to cover it with houses. One of the new roads opened immediately opposite little Lily's home, and at its corner there was reared a house higher and larger and far handsomer than the rest. It was not known at first what this corner house was intended for, and some of the people were so wise as to think the purchaser of the Woodlands estate meant to come and live there himself. But by and by it came to be known that the handsome building was designed for a public house, and was to be called the Woodlands Hotel. All this was much to the amazement of the good folks of Merton, who had 2 public houses already, and could not understand the need of another. There was the bold-faced Stag, where the commercial travellers stayed, and the humbler Packhorse, where the farmers put up their carts and ate their market dinner. Luke Lycett was employed on the buildings, and being an expert and clever workman was engaged in fitting up the really noble rooms of the Woodlands Hotel. Every day when he came home he had something to tell about the new place. It was going to be a palace, and the magistrates had already given a full licence, and a stranger from Minsterley was to take possession as soon as it was ready. Time passed on, and the hotel was nearly finished. Much really remained to be done, and the upper rooms were far from fit for occupation. However, casks and barrels were rolled in, cases of bottles unpacked, and soon the ground floor was ready for opening. On a certain Saturday, the Woodlands Hotel was opened, a band being engaged to play lively airs, while seated on the leads above the bar room, which projected a few feet beyond the front of the main building. What a sensation was created, to be sure. The people of Merton had known nothing like it, and pronounced the new landlord wide awake, declaring it was all over for the stag and the pack horse. Listening to the music and gossiping there, they became thirsty, and it was astonishing what a crowd filled the house, and how busy the landlord and his wife were. In fact, the brewer's dray was at the door on Monday morning with a new supply of beer, for the stock had actually been exhausted. Luke Lycett spent the whole of that Saturday evening, the first he had ever so spent, at the public house. It was an evil day for Lily Lycett and her mother when the magistrates licensed the new gin palace. Nor were they the only ones who suffered by reason of the opening of another source of vice and poverty under the sanction of the law. Luke became a frequent visitor at the Woodlands. At first it was only for an hour on Saturday evenings. Then the landlord started a club on Mondays, and Lycett joined that, and of course must go and pay his club money or lose his benefits. Very small indeed are the benefits ever drawn out of a public house. Many a man has joined one to provide against sickness and has thereby lost his health, or to lay up for a time when he might be out of work and has found himself thrown out of work by the habits formed at his club. The man who joins a tavern club puts in at the spigot and lets out at the bunghole. Landlords are not so generous as to lend club rooms with gas and fire for nothing, though they charge no rent. They know it will be for the good of the house, that is, for the filling of their purse, and every penny drawn from a working man's purse for drink at a public house is so much loss to his family, and so much as a contribution towards the degrading of his own health and character. By and by, a harmonic meeting was started by the enterprising publican on Wednesdays, anything to bring grist to the mill. So it came to pass that Lycett was sure to spend 3 evenings in the week at the Woodlands, and then on Tuesday or Friday he would have, as he said, to meet Jones about the club or Robertson about the Harmonic Society, and so he became a regular patron of the public house, and never spent less than 5 shillings a week for the benefit of its landlord. Luke Lycett did not all at once become a drunkard. He had a great deal of self-regard, and looked with contempt upon a drunkard as one who did not know how to take care of himself, or leave off when he had had enough. Luke little thought that he himself was slipping down the inclined plane from moderation to intemperance, but already he was drinking nearly 3 times as much as he used to do, though he still considered himself moderate. One evening, when Lycett was very late, Lily asked her mother where he was. Lucy said that she feared he was at the Woodlands. Lucy sat quiet for a little while, and then very gravely said, "Mother, if father stops there, he'll be getting ill again. I think I had better go and ask him to come home." So Lily went bravely and asked at the bar for her father. He had never been sent for before, so the landlord thought he must be wanted on business, and pointed the little girl into the parlour on the other side of the passage. The unexpectedness of the summons startled Lycett, and he rose and immediately followed the child. "Father," she said, "I thought if they kept you at that nasty public house you would perhaps be ill again." Lycett said nothing, but strode on so fast that Lily had difficulty in keeping up with him. Lily often prayed for her father in her simple childlike manner, the manner most pleasing to God in young or old, asking God to bless her father and save him from drink and the public house. Luke had slept late after a late night at the Harmonic, and was coming downstairs one morning when he heard a voice sounding from Lily's bedroom. At first he thought 2 persons were talking, and he stopped to listen. Peeping through the crevice of the slightly opened door, he saw Lily kneeling by her bedside. She was praying for her father. "O Lord, save my dear father. He didn't come till very late last night, and I'm afraid he was tipsy. Lord, save father. I wish he would never go to the public house but stay at home with mother and me and Charlie. Lord, make him leave off drinking and change his heart." In such simple language, coming direct to God with her earnest request, did the little child pray. Her father descended the stairs and went out of the house without a word. He looked back over the years since he began to frequent the Woodlands Hotel, and Lily was now 9 years old, and he saw that his path had been a downward track all that time. What would be the end of it? He had been wont to despise the drunkard and to ridicule the idea of ever becoming a sot. But what was he? He looked at his clothes, and they were not such as he once wore. His home, it was not what it once was. His Sundays, days of idleness. Few he knew respected him. He resolved he would not go to the public house that night, if indeed he ever crossed its threshold again. It was with no little surprise that Mrs. Lycett saw her husband go into the back garden after his tea and set to work to repair a summer house which she had made before Lily was born, but which had since been allowed to fall into ruin. She thought it well to say nothing, but took care to have the room bright and comfortable, and herself washed and clad in her best dress by the time he should be tired and come indoors. It was some days before anything was said by Lucy to her husband, for she thought it wiser to wait until he should give her his confidence. She learned, however, that he had ceased to go to the tavern, though she was at a loss to know what had influenced him. Lily's next effort was to get her father to a temperance meeting, and you might have seen Lily and Luke attentively listening to the speakers, laughing at the funny things while their eyes sometimes glistened with tears at the sad things which were said. Little Lily had won her father. He signed the pledge that night before he left the hall, and after they got home, when Lily was gone to bed, Luke told his wife how the little girl's prayer first touched his heart and led him to think and see his folly and sin. The cottage is bright and happy now. Flowers bloom in the garden, and the children's faces are bright with smiles, while their merry voices fill the home with laughter and song. Lily's prayer and gentle pleading have won her father from sin and danger, and now he bends his knee in prayer for himself and his family, and tries to set them a good example. So richly can God bless the effort and influence of a little child.